Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bowtie Security Guy After Dark, episode 26, I believe. Our sponsor is once again ThreatLocker. They do absolutely amazing work for Zero Trust. If you're looking for endpoint protection, there is simply no better. It makes things incredibly easy with the default deny, stop ransomware in its tracks, stop people from doing malicious things. It's just an all-around great and simple product. You can check it out at threatlocker.com/demo. And then also check out their careers. ThreatLocker does a ton with the community. They do a ton to kind of represent the entry-level cyber market where I think a lot of companies are kind of falling behind. So when they reached out, I was very excited. So please take a look at threatlocker.com/careers and take a look at them. My guest today is Peter Bagley. Peter, I love your stuff and I love kind of looking at your journey, and I wanted you to kind of come on and hang out and just
Sure.
and just kind of talk. You started really, both of us are what I call seasoned professionals. Um,
Okay.
so tell me a little bit about how you started your career and how you got into cyber.
Well, I got into cyber through the military. I got into the military, joined back in 1984, probably before a lot of your listeners were ever born. Um, but I came in as an infantry soldier, right out front, shooting the weapons, all those great things. And around 1988 is when I decided to reclassify and get into computers. And this is when the computer age was just kicking off. I was working mainframes and a bunch of other things, and kind of grew into that realm, not having any idea it'll be like this today. So you kind of fast forward through 21 years of being in the Army and getting involved with cyber through that realm. I was able to basically teach at the Army Computer Science School for many years. I've been teaching as a consultant and a college professor for about 20 years. So that's how I kind of rolled into the cyber. And then my jobs, of course, led more into those areas as I got deeper into the realm of cyber.
Well, let's go back. Like in the 90s, you were teaching classes on computers and things of that nature to
Yep.
military and infantrymen and
Hmm.
things of that nature. Like, how did that even happen? Like, this is so that I mean, that's like bleeding edge for the government, right? I mean, they're moving really fast.
True.
So you must have been at the forefront of a lot of those conversations. Like, how do we even
I
teach this?
guess we had no clue at the time, but yeah, I guess we were. So we were, well, I more or less, I came in around the infancy stages of CompTIA when CompTIA
Yeah.
was just coming online as a company, as a, agnostic certification corporation that can pretty much work with any organization. And I was actually teaching that in 19, I think it was, yeah, about 99. I started picking it up more because I was at the Pentagon doing mainframe, and then I moved to the school. And the quick story, real quick. When I first got to DC at the Pentagon in '92, um, I was kind of struggling on the PC side. I had no clue. I was a mainframe guy. And at the time they were giving computers away to kind of help people have computers in their house, I paid a guy $400 to build me a gateway computer. You know, here's the
Yeah.
funny part. 2 years later, I'm standing in front of about 25 West Point graduates teaching how to build a computer.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, funny, right?
It's one of those things where this field in general is one that's constantly evolving, constantly
Oh,
changing. And
yeah.
anyone who looks at us as the experts doesn't understand the field because because there
True.
is no the
No,
reality is there aren't experts. There are
correct.
just people who are constantly learning and constantly educating themselves on the
Sure.
fly.
You're exactly right. That's one of the things I share with my students. I say cyber is always exciting, something new to learn. The
Yeah.
downside, though, cyber is always something new to learn. So you're never gonna say, like a historian, this is it, I got it, and
Right.
I know we're
Yeah.
good.
I'm good.
5 minutes later, you're behind.
And I think that's the big thing is a lot of people don't realize it's a lifetime investment.
Yes, it is.
It's
I agree.
not like something you can learn and you're like, yep, I'm good at this now. Like
Right.
you've got to continue to evolve your skills. Like a mechanic is a good example where they've learned combustion engines, they understand kind of the basics, and you can kind of apply that to a lot of engines.
Correct. Correct.
With cyber, you can apply some of your core fundamental skills, but you've got to constantly evolve. So it's like, you've been working on Toyotas your whole life, and now you're at the Porsche dealership, and it's like
Correct. Yes.
everything's changed.
Totally.
Uh,
Totally. And that's the part right now that's so difficult for so many people, even with the current job situation being what it is. For so many people who've been
Yeah,
in the field for a long time, and unfortunately, because of layoffs and furloughs, all these other things, they're very seasoned. But the problem is they're not seasoned with the current technology.
right.
They're seasoned with older technology. It doesn't mean
Yep.
that they're not proficient in what they do. They're probably very, very good. But when hiring managers look at them for a current position that has current things like
Yep.
AI and other things that are going on, they haven't gotten there yet. And it's not their fault because some of them probably never even had that as a requirement in the job that they're
Well,
working.
I feel like we've been very lucky in our careers, you and I specifically, just because we entered in a time where it was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
we were so in demand, like you didn't wait to find a job. Like
Correct.
that wasn't like you would be like you would leave a company and then you would say, "Hey, anybody got a job?" And then you'd have a few offers that evening.
Sure. I agree
Um,
100%.
and now I really I struggle because I try to give people advice, and a lot of my advice is counterintuitive to who we are as individuals, because a lot of us in technology are very much introverts.
Sure.
We like playing with technology. We don't like really putting ourselves out there. That's not really common. You and I have kind of broken through that, and we love
Sure.
teaching and educating, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't. But you need those soft skills
You have to.
to get a job, because unfortunately, knowing something is not enough anymore. It's
No.
like, do you want to hang out with this person? It's very much a
And part of that
popularity thing.
too is all about the team building
Yeah.
because hiring managers now, you can be the sharpest person in pen testing.
Yeah.
But if your attitude and your soft skills are bad, they don't want you part of the team they took time to build because you can
100%.
disrupt all of that in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. So it's not always about the hard skill that you have. It's also
Right.
about how personable you are. How are you as a person, your character, and how well do you learn with people? That's a huge part of it because someone can always go to school to learn the technical part, but the people part, that's a little bit harder to get.
I always say I can teach you technology. I can't
Hmm.
teach you not to be a jerk.
Exactly.
Like, you know,
100% true.
like that it's kind of it's either something that you inherently have, that you've worked
Hmm.
to be a team player, or you're just somebody who works better alone. And
Correct.
this market used to be the smartest person got the job, period.
Yes. Yes.
They would hire somebody who had a toxic attitude as
Hmm.
long as they could bang out code and knock
Correct.
out something super fast. That is non-existent anymore.
I agree.
If I see a hint of arrogance, if I see any of that stuff on an interview, that's it. That I
Right.
you don't want that on your team. I feel like cybersecurity has shifted in a way. We went from an environment that was nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's trying to
True.
figure it out. We're going to
Yep.
figure this out together, to we're the smartest people in the room. Nobody else is allowed to do this. And
Yeah.
that's where I think we really hit the roadblock. Like you're teaching these students, like, what are you telling them about the market? Like, I've got a lot of professors who show my videos in their classes of like, hey, that six-figure job you were told you were going to get, yeah, that ain't going to happen. How do you prepare your students, and how do you kind of bridge that gap? What is the advice that you give?
So one of the things I always try to do with all my classes, I personally I always reflect back to when I was a student.
Yeah,
That's where I always start because I want people to kind of share the real world that's going on outside of what the book says. The book is a great start, but that's not always how it is when someone's actually working in those positions.
yeah,
So I always try to interject. I do it weekly in most of my classes. I call it a cyber update, where I will actually go out and find periodicals about someone getting hacked, the fallout of a ransomware attack, and how it was more or less resolved as far as the incident response capability or something like that. Just to kind of give them the big picture of this is what you're going to school for, but that's where you actually may be working at in that type of realm. So
Yeah.
you have to be prepared for that. And you have to also cross-pollinate your skills. You're good in one area, and that's where you can rest your head. But you still need to know about what's on the right and what's on the left. Even if you're not the expert, you can talk it enough to where you can learn the rest if you needed to.
Yeah.
And that's the type of person you have to be coming into the IT and cyber world, period, right now.
Totally agree. A lot of the fundamental skills that are missing from a lot of the college kids that I talk to and mentor are the fundamental problem solving skills
Mhm.
that we had no choice to learn,
Correct.
right? We didn't have a chat GPT. We didn't have a YouTube that we could go look it up. We just had to wing it and keep breaking it until it worked.
Correct. Yeah.
And I feel like there's a huge like gap where they believe that their learning stops in the classroom, and it doesn't. It's
No.
you've got to be putting in cycles. I see even me and you both, right? I'm at B-Sides Orlando, you're at B-Sides Tampa. Like
Hmm.
we're putting in time, we're continuing to stay relevant, we're continuing to
Yes.
engage in the community. Because we know if we don't, we simply will never find a job in the event
Oh,
of a
you'll vanish.
situation. Yeah,
You'll vanish in a heartbeat.
that's it. I try
Yep.
to tell people, I was like, your resume is not going to get you a job. Your certs, your degree, those aren't going to get you a job. Your relationships
Correct.
will. Now more
Bingo.
than ever.
Exactly. I
I,
agree
I,
100%.
I mean, because if you look at just between the two of us, you and I could probably name 20, 25, maybe 30 people who are currently unemployed, who are incredibly talented, who can't find work.
Unfortunately, yes, you're right.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and
and
it's
unfortunately,
it's
more are
brutal.
coming on board in that same
Yeah,
realm
I
because
know.
of the current state of where the country is right now,
Yeah.
and nobody's fault. Uh, I have a lot of. I remember when I got out of the military, we were all at we call it a Y, to where you can go right and become a government contractor, or you go left and become a government civilian.
Yeah.
And the term was more or less go left, just become a civilian, and that's where your stability was. You go
Yeah.
right, become a contractor, that's where your income probably will be a lot more. And that
Right.
was a crossroad that we all had to hit. But unfortunately, a lot of my peers who took the left turn and went to the government realm, some made it to retirement and many did not. And
Right.
then when things like furloughs come down, everything just kind of went down not too long ago.
Yeah.
They're out of a job. And now a lot of those people that were out of a job during the furlough, they're coming to the commercial side. There's, they have bills, they have
Right.
families they have to take care of. And that's the reality. So going back to your networking point, that's one of the biggest things I always tell people. If they don't know you, they can't help you.
Yeah.
But you have to be out there to be known.
Yep.
Volunteer, get involved, be a part of what's going on in the community. That community is going to be your success. It's not necessarily always your skills.
And not only will you meet success within the community, you'll meet support. You'll have
100%.
you'll
Yes.
have people who have your back, right? Both you
Yes.
and I work with different charity organizations that help young
Hmm.
kids in cyber. It's hard, right?
It is.
Like it's not easy to get into. The walls are drastically high, and very few entry level roles open with no experience. It's quite
Right.
rare.
True.
Uh, like I opened a role recently at my company. I work for a major Fortune 500. That's unheard of. Like and I got a lot of applicants. Within
Hmm.
48 hours, I had
Oh, I'm
900
sure.
applicants.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So it goes back to what you said is like, how do you stand out? How do you represent yourself? And
Uh-huh.
unfortunately, a lot of your representing yourself is part of your online identity. And
Correct.
I found that out when I got laid off from Disney, and my recruiters are like, "Hey, I tried to look you up on LinkedIn." And I was like, "I don't have a LinkedIn." And they're like, "What do you mean you don't have a LinkedIn?" And I was like, "I'm a professional ethical hacker and social engineer. Why would I have a LinkedIn?" He's like, "So you could get a job." And I was surprised to find out that if you don't have a LinkedIn, you're not getting a job. Like, unless you know somebody who knows someone, the odds are very
Correct.
slim because of how many fake people are out there, how many fake
Oh yeah,
resumes are out there.
definitely.
And it's getting more and more interesting because there's a lot of desperate people, like you mentioned, like you and I have probably talked to more than a few professionals who are like,
Sure.
I don't know how I'm going to pay for Christmas.
No, for real. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm losing my house. I talked to a guy yesterday who just moved into a homeless shelter. Like
Mm.
these are people who felt like their career was untouchable.
Right.
And it's hard for me to tell these kids like, hey, this is a great career. Like it's a lot of stress.
It is.
It's a lot of sacrifice. But if you love it, you never work a day in your life.
That's true. Very true. Yeah, I
But
mean,
you
because it
have to
becomes
love
a
it.
part of who you are. Exactly. You have
Yeah.
to love it.
Yeah.
But it's a love-hate relationship a lot of times too.
Ain't that the truth, brother?
Because you love when you're doing it right, but when things pop up, you don't know, you got to troubleshoot. That's
Yeah.
where the hate comes in sometimes. 'Cause those could be some pretty long hours, depending on what it is.
Oh, I
But
mean, for
that's
sure.
that's what makes us different, and that's what they pay us for,
And
to
that's where I
have that.
tried. Yeah, I had somebody on last week on the podcast who had just gotten their first entry level gig in cyber, and I was like, "Hey, you working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday?" And he's like, "What? No, my schedule is 2 a.m. to 1 p.m. or
Yeah,
whatever."
yeah.
That that's the reality is you're gonna have to give up a lot, and
Oh yeah,
it may not be something that's worth it if you're chasing cyber to get into it for the money. It's probably not the best place for you. If you're chasing it for the challenge and the growth opportunity, I think that's where the job fulfillment comes from.
that's true. That's very true.
In your career, like, have you, I feel like you're my people, so you're very much going to be like, yeah, of course. How did you handle burnout and how long did it take you to realize that you were burned out? Like, tell me that
Mm,
story of like you were working a gig and then you just realized that you were given literally everything for this job. Like, what did
yeah.
that look like?
I've had that situation more than once, unfortunately, and a lot of
Same.
it has to do with the people and the environment as well.
Yeah.
I've been in spots where everything was good, but the person in charge of everybody just was not that guy.
Yeah.
And he was rude and crude. And, you get to a point where you're like, okay, is all of this worth what they're giving me? And you have to come to more or less, it's a character call you have to make. Okay,
Yeah.
am I going to continue to absorb this punishment, verbally, whatever it may be, or am I just going to change path and go a different direction? And one of the things I always tell people, the beauty of Florida, and it's really most states, it's a right to hire, right to fire state.
Yep.
You have just as much right to leave as they do to fire you after they pay you your last paycheck.
Yep.
But the only way you have some comfort in leaving is knowing that you continue to create options. So every place I've worked, ever since I got in the military, my resume stayed out there. And it wasn't for the point that I was going to go looking. I needed to make sure the skills I had were still relevant, that someone wanted me.
Yeah.
And that created the option. So if I had to pivot, I had somewhere to go to.
I mean, that's great advice. Every 2 years, I ask myself, am I happy?
Hmm.
Do I like where I'm at? And am I still viable? And I do that just
Correct.
like you do, which is I keep my resume updated every 6 months. Anytime I do something
Hmm.
major, I'll add it to my resume. And then I'm always looking for opportunities, not because I
Sure.
want to leave, but
Exactly.
because I want to know that I'm still valued. And also, it helps you know if you're undervalued where you're currently at.
True. That's very true. Because sometimes you have to use that leverage. I've been in situations where I worked in companies and I knew I was being underpaid.
Yep.
But then, the companies were offering me some pretty good numbers. But I went back to the company I was with and said, hey, I like you guys. You're a great group of people, but
Yep.
someone else is shopping me right now and they're doubling what you're paying me. If you're willing to move up to that, we may be able to continue to work together. If not, nothing personal. I have to go take care of my family. And I
Yeah.
left. But they fully understood because it's all about me. And I tell every
100%.
person I talk to, you need to be selfish because any company you work for, you're really just a number. And again, it's not personal, it's the business model. That's how it's
Yeah.
designed. And unless you own it, you're owned by it. So you have to create your own options and give yourself those opportunities to move if you need to.
100%. I fear a lot of people get their job in cyber and they're like, I'm done. I don't need to chase it anymore. And I did a video a few months back about offers being rescinded, right? You and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, have seen it
Mm-hmm.
happen with mentees and people that we work with,
Mm-hmm.
where they crushed it, they get the job offer, they
Yeah.
move cross country, and then it's like, oh, sorry, this job doesn't exist anymore.
And that's painful.
Oh my man. or you find out it's a scam. I've investigated a lot of those for people, and that's the worst.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them
Having
out there.
so many of them, and they
Yeah.
target new people specifically, because they know they're hungry. I always
Oh
tell
yeah.
anyone who's looking for cyber work, I said, if someone reaches out to you with an opportunity, it's probably a scam. Just if you don't know them
True.
personally,
Correct.
just
Correct.
assume it's a
Yeah.
scam, and your job is to prove why it's not.
Exactly. No, it's true because if not, you end up losing the most.
Yeah, yeah, and it's wild, and it's funny because I still don't necessarily deter people from this field because we're gonna need people.
Always.
Whether AI is gonna help or hinder is not yet to be
Hmm.
seen.
Correct.
You, there are definitely going to be jobs that will be eliminated, but there are also going to be jobs that are created with AI,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
you and I both have AI certs because we want to stay relevant. I just
Hmm.
saw you got your AWS cert. I've done similar, right?
Hmm.
You have to stay understanding of the new technology and you have to embrace new technology because
Yes.
as the business pivots, you need to be ready to roll with it or you're going to be rolling out, right? And
Well,
that's
that's
the
why so
reality.
many businesses are out of business right now because they
Yeah.
weren't willing and ready to pivot when
Yep.
the environment pivoted. And
Yeah.
then you have new companies like you said that pop up. But I tell people, especially from the AI perspective, and you and I kind of came around the same time, we were on the edge of when the internet took
Oh yeah.
off
For sure.
from its infancy. And during that time, it's the same conversation that people are having right now about AI. Oh, I'm
It
going to lose
is
my job. I don't know what's going to happen.
it is identical, the
Very
conversation.
much. So I
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
people right now, we are in the internet age for AI right now. And 10,
100%.
12 years from now, it'll be jobs that never existed that will exist. But there'll also be jobs that don't exist anymore. But I
100.
tell people, if they ever watch the movie Hidden Figures, the lady who took the book from the library, taught herself how to be a COBOL programmer, took that IBM system and made it sing, she became what's called a value added. And she made herself that by doing things that other people weren't doing. They had to hire her, and she now was over all the people who didn't even want her to touch it.
Yeah.
That's how the business works. You're your only cap. Nothing stops you from going as far as you want to go.
No, and Margaret Hamilton, I think that was her
Yes,
name.
yes,
An amazing woman in general because at the time too, a woman in technology was literally unheard of.
unheard of. Totally. Yes.
Um, so I always one of my favorite quotes when I worked at Disney was by Walt Disney, which is it's always fun to do the impossible, right?
Mm.
Like
Hmm.
and to me as I'm a high school graduate. I was homeless at 18, living on the streets.
God
Um,
bless you.
I chose to fight, and I chose not to let anyone tell me what I couldn't do,
Right.
right? And I think that's the mindset you need to go into with this. Because when I
Hmm.
have that conversation with mentees at the beginning, um, I'm going to tell you the reality of things. It's going to be hard. It's going to
Right.
take years. It's going to be a
True.
struggle. Your job is to prove me wrong and tell me I'm an
Hmm.
idiot,
Hmm.
right?
No, I
Because that's what I want. I want you to come back to me in 6 months and be like, I totally got a job in cyber. I'm like, awesome. Like, I had 150 other conversations who didn't get a job, but I'm glad that you were the one who broke in, right?
they were the unicorn, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's a great point, right? Chasing unicorns, I think, has become the reality. Like, no matter what, like, people will open a job and they're not willing to invest in people. They want somebody who is literally a perfect fit
Oh
and
yeah.
also
Yeah.
incredibly personable and knows how to talk it. And I feel like that time of investing in people is going away. And you've got to find the right leaders. Like you had mentioned earlier, that toxic leader that you worked for, people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses, right?
Oh, definitely. I agree with
And
that.
majority of us in technology who became leaders were forced into leadership. Like we were dragged and pulled into leadership. You're the same way. Like I look at your
Hmm.
history, you were an individual contributor, you were a coder, you were doing all this stuff in mainframe, and then they're like, "Hey, you're really good at that." And you're like, "Yeah, I like helping people." And they're like, "Why don't you help people more?" And then you just kind of fall into it. Steve Jobs said in his biography, like when Apple first started, he had hired a bunch of career leaders
Right.
and it was horrible. They gave deliverables that didn't make sense. They didn't understand the technology. They couldn't really
Hmm.
relate to the people. And they couldn't help their team in any sort of demonstrable way besides yelling at them and trying to get them to do stuff. So,
Which was not a positive.
no. So,
Exactly.
and I feel like so many people who are leaders were kind of forced into it. I took the path of I'm tired of working people like your previous boss and other previous bosses that I've had. There are a lot of toxic leaders within technology because they are
Hmm.
not leaders. They
Correct.
were really technical people who were forced into leadership.
That's true. That's true.
And
Or they
then
weren't
were
technical at all.
yeah, and then they were never taught to lead. They were just like, you're the boss now. Get this done. And that to me was really surprising. Even when I worked at Disney, I was a leader for years before they came out with an actual leadership training.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
it's just uncommon to train your leaders. It's just like, oh, you should inherently know this. So that I think one thing I want to touch on though is like you had mentioned kind of having choices, and I think that's key,
Hmm.
right? I always tell people having money is not about being rich. It's about having choice
Correct.
and never being trapped. But a lot of people now, because the market is the way it is, feel like they can't move. They feel like they're completely trapped.
Well, I tell you, it's funny because, and I guess I'm proud. I don't know, or stupid, one of the two. But
Can it
I've
be both?
had probably I've had a part-time job ever since I did paper routes when I was a kid.
Same.
And the reason why is, unfortunately, most families can't sustain off of one income, even if it's two, a husband and a wife working together.
Yeah,
There still needs to be added funds if you
for
want to
sure.
go to Disney or do other
Hmm.
things, keep your kids in soccer, whatever it may be. Those are ancillary costs that doesn't always have an answer. So you learn how to take a 24-hour clock and get as much as you can out of it.
Yeah.
And I tell everyone that's the only thing in the world every person walking the earth has in common. We all have 24 hours. What
Yep.
you do with that 24 hours is what makes a difference.
Yeah.
And that's solely on you and your initiative and how much you desire, like you talked about.
Yeah, I always say my side hustles have side hustles, right?
Definitely. Definitely. It's
Um,
true.
because I refuse to ever go back to a time where I am literally scamming to get food because I'm starving.
Correct. Correct.
I,
And
I,
that's a
I,
huge fear.
and it's something you never lose. It, do-
No, you
it
don't.
doesn't matter how much money you make later in life. Once you're a poor kid, you were always a poor kid. Like, and you do
And
not change that mentality, even
no.
today.
And sometimes that becomes part of your detriment because you don't
Does.
let it go and you need to back away a little bit more than you probably are, but you're just so committed because that's really what you know.
Yeah,
And whatever you may call success, that's probably what helped you get to where you are.
100%.
Because if you weren't, you probably wouldn't be where you are today.
Yeah.
But there comes a time, as we get to a certain point in our lives, we have to also recognize sooner or later you have to be able to enjoy what I call the fruits of your labor.
Yes.
Because if you don't, why are you doing it? So if you're a person that's been blessed enough to get to where your kids are gone, it's just you and your wife or your son, whatever it may be, and financially you seem to be okay in a good spot, then when are you going to start enjoying that? Because you can't take it with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you
Well,
have to be able to do that work-life balance.
the work-life balance is something I suffered really bad figuring
Hmm.
out early in my career. I was probably in my like early 40s when I
Hmm.
realized like I'm killing myself to make other people a lot of
Yeah,
money.
yeah, true.
And there is no value to that. Like I tell my team now, if you're working 50 hours a week consistently, I'm failing you as a leader.
Yeah,
Like you
I hear
shouldn't
you.
be. I pay
I
you for
agree.
40, right?
Sure.
But a lot of people don't think that way. A lot of people are just like, I'm going to burn that person down, right? And just kind of get as much out of them. And I feel like right there with you where you've got to balance all that work that you've done and all the things that you've done, especially now,
Correct.
right? Because
Yes. Yes.
that company loyalty doesn't exist anymore. That job loyalty doesn't exist anymore.
And ironically, it never has. But that's just
No, but
how that's the picture we painted in our minds.
we
Because
have.
traditionally, you go back to our parents and the industrial age and all those areas back then. that was loyalty because you
Yeah,
had to be loyal to finish the year to get your pension. Well,
exactly.
all that's gone. And
No,
so really
yeah,
it's next man up mentality right now. And that could
yep,
be either you being the next man up or you're out and somebody's replacing you. But
yeah,
it's one of the two. Everyone has
yeah.
shelf life. Sooner or later, you got to go.
I always say that you wanna define what your definition of success was. And I spent a good portion of my career not realizing I was successful.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I can relate to that
Like,
very much
yeah,
because your
I
head, you're in the grind. You
yeah,
don't
and
realize
you
you're
chase somebody else's definition of success.
exactly, and
It-
you'll never meet it.
no, no, and you'll never get there, right? I
No.
remember I went and talked to my wife. I was going to apply for the senior director role. And my wife goes, I mean, that's great. You've been in this role for now a year and a half. Like that sounds like a great opportunity, but what do you get for it?
Or what do you give up? Maybe that's
Yeah,
a better way to put it.
and she goes, well, and I was like, well, I mean, it'd probably be about 5-10% more pay. And she's like, and then how much more time? How much of your time are you
Yeah,
going to give up? How much more work are you going to put in? And how much more impact will you have? And I
correct.
said, limited more impact and probably about 20% more work. She's like, the math ain't adding up, honey.
That's a great way to evaluate things. I mean,
It
because
is.
and a lot of it also depends on where you are in your life. So
Yeah.
when we were all young, we were climbing up the ladder. So we were
Yep.
gun ho. We were doing everything we could to get recognized,
Oh, yeah.
continue to increase our income. But after you get to a certain age, you're coming down the ladder.
Yep.
So you should not be working as hard as you did
No.
15, 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
Hopefully, as long as things have kind of lined up the right way for you. And if
Yep.
it hasn't, you got it. You do what you got to do. But this does get passed on to the next generation sooner or later.
Yeah.
You have to let it go.
And you've got to be okay letting it go, right? Like,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that was a hard thing for me, leaving like a program that wasn't fully done and moving on. And my buddy gave me some great advice. He said, if you can walk away from a program that's 10-15% from completed and somebody else can finish it, that's how you know you built something strong,
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
right?
In the military, we would always say, if me as a leader, if I'm gone and my shop is running as if I'm there, I've done a great job.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if it's not, then I didn't.
that I think is so critical to good servant leadership, right? Making
Hmm.
sure that your team not only knows what they need to do, but are empowered to be successful.
Very important. And I tell people, it's not about the me game when it comes to your team. If you shine the light on your team, the team's going to shine the light twice as bright back on you. So become the
100%.
giver, not the taker, and you'll be just amazed at how things
The,
kind of move
the
forward
the
for you.
only leadership style I believe is the only one that makes sense is servant leadership. Going
Yes,
above and beyond, making sure that your team is taken care of. And if you
correct.
make them successful, like you said, they will make you
Hmm.
successful,
Oh, no
period.
doubt. No doubt.
Um, and if you treat them like humans, and if they work overnights or they do a long change, like cut them early, let them take off. Like the most
What is
precious
it going
gift
to
you can
hurt?
give them is time.
Right. But even sometimes the managers are afraid to make a leadership call because they don't
100%.
want to get chewed out by their leadership. Rather than manning up or womaning up and
Yep.
saying, those are my guys. You told me to take care of them. I'm doing that. So let me do my job.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that takes, a little backbone.
Well, it also takes being financially comfortable, making sure
Hmm.
that you've got your finances in order, that you got a little bit in the nest egg put away. Um,
Hmm.
because that level of comfort allows you to stand your ground more. It allows you
Correct.
to rock the boat a little bit more, you know?
Definitely. And if you created those opportunities like we've been talking about, you still feel comfortable enough to know, okay, well, I got it. If we're not fitting here, I have some other options that I can go to. And I appreciate what we've done together, what we learned, but it's time for me to transition to something different.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. I want to give you some time to plug your stuff. So, I do see that you offer cert courses and other things
Yeah,
too. Like, how can people get to your website? How can they check it out? I also see you offer a lot of free stuff too, like help and different things on your LinkedIn and all kinds
sure.
of free certs that you share.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the first things I will always say, going back to what we talked about with LinkedIn, if you're in IT and cyber and you don't have a LinkedIn account, you've already lost the game
Yeah,
in a big way because you have no contact of what's going on out there that you can access to. That's one of the things I
100%.
do use LinkedIn a lot, and more or less is to help someone else promote what they're doing.
Yep.
but it gives other people a chance to get around a community that they can learn a lot from, and their next job may come from that community. As far
That's
as my company goes, B&B Cyber Solutions, we are basically a pre-assessment organization for people going through the 800 NIST 800 171 process for CMMC right now. So we come in and we're more or less the auditing side of it, helping with gap analysis,
nice.
helping them get prepared for the big day when they have to actually do the certification. And most people, unfortunately, and especially the small businesses, they don't have the manpower or the knowledge to do it. So that's where we
Yep.
come in and help out.
No, and that's awesome. And support a small business, support somebody awesome. Peter gives back a crazy amount. He is always going to B-sides. He's always going to different areas. He is constantly teaching, constantly educating. Um, I appreciate your time, brother. I
Oh,
truly
thank
do,
you.
man. And I hope people can kind of listen to this. I think the consistent trend that you see from all of my guests is that relationships are key. They're
Yeah, I agree.
so critical.
Definitely.
And if you don't have soft skills, that should be something you're totally practicing and putting the time in.
True.
Peter, man, I appreciate your time, brother. Have a
Thank you so
fantastic
much, Robert. I
weekend,
appreciate
man.
it. Look forward to
Awesome.
seeing you soon.
Oh yeah, man. I'll see. Oh, you got to come down to the next B-sides. Come hang out B-sides Orlando.
I think I'll do that.
Awesome. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
No problem. Everyone else, good luck out there.